ومن آياته خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف ألسنتكم وألوانكم إن في ذلك لآيات للعالمين. And one of his signs is the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and colors. Surely in this are signs for those of sound knowledge. While enumerating various bounties and signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for insan and for mankind, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created these bounties as great signs for mankind, so that they understand the grandeur, the greatness, the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Amongst these signs is the creation of the skies and the earth. If we look at the sky, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the sky without even a single pillar. It stands from the time it was created to date and until the day of Qiyamah, or whenever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants it to stand, without a single pillar. And that is the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we look at the earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the earth with so much of diversity within it, within the ground itself. Allah ta'ala has created various sorts of sand, various sorts of land, some which are flat, some which are barren, some which can bear fruit, some which are full of grass and greenery, while others are only hard rock and sand and cement and deserts, etc. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created these as signs for mankind to look and ponder into these signs and understand and ponder over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and marvel over His power and His might. Further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the variety of languages amongst mankind. Some speak Arabic, some speak English, some speak Urdu, some speak Chichewa, some speak Afrikaans, some speak Zulu, etc., Xhosa. How many different sorts of languages, Persian, Iranian, etc. And within those languages there are different dialects as well, like in Arabic and English, the way of pronouncing certain things, the names of certain things within those languages. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this for us to ponder on His greatness and to marvel His power over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Further, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of the different colors of the children of Adam alayhi salam, that each one has a unique color, mostly similar to each other, but a variety of colors amongst the human race as well. The whites, the reds, the Indian, the brown, the African, etc. So many different colors Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created of the skin of mankind, of the skin of human beings. All of this is to show the greatness and the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, your color or your language doesn't mean that you are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in any way whatsoever, which is indicated in one of the verses in Surah Al-Hujurat. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكَرٍ وَأُنثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. And apart from the colors and the languages that we speak, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us in different qaba'il, different races and different villages, or we belong to different nations and countries, لِتَعَارَفُوا, so that you can recognize the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You can recognize the power and might of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What will differentiate you from the other is not your color or your language, your race or your nationality. What will differentiate you from others is إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ, that the most honorable in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the most pious, the most Allah fearing, the most Allah mindful amongst you. Therefore, in these, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these various signs that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. Who are these signs for? إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِلْعَالِمِينَ. Verily, these are signs for those who have sound knowledge and intellect. Those who are looking at these things merely as information, for them it's just information and data capturing. However, those with sound knowledge, those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the light of ilm, the light of pure knowledge from His side, for them these are great signs of understanding, marveling, pondering upon the great creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.